Well, good afternoon. Unfortunately, I need to address unfounded rumour that the Tokyo Games will be cancelled. Rumours that only create more anxiety for the athletes in our sports. The Tokyo Games are on. The flame will be lit on the 23rd of July 2021. This has just been reconfirmed again by the Japanese Prime Minister this afternoon in Parliament in Tokyo. Tokyo 2020 will be a very different Games, simpler, but with a focus on the athletes and their competitions. Sadly, ceremonies and cultural aspects of the Games will be reduced. Decisions on spectators, local and international, are still to be made. The Games organisers, the International Olympic Committee, TOCOG, Tokyo Metropolitan and the Japanese government are putting in place COVID countermeasures, testing regimes, guidelines on personal responsibilities, the same of the things that we do here in Australia. Athletes will arrive no more than 5 days into the village before their competition and will leave within 48 hours of the completion of their competition. So hence that's focus on athletes and competitions. The AOC has a project team in place supported by Aspen Medical to support our athletes and their sports in the preparation period between now and the Games. Overseas competitions, qualifications. The international federations are working through the qualification requirements and are modifying them to ensure that athletes, the level playing field is there to get athletes to the Games. We are well into planning the assembly of the team here in Australia, and some athletes will be coming in to Tokyo from overseas. That planning will go to all the necessary measures to ensure that the Australian athletes are COVID-free and arrive safely into Tokyo, into the village in Tokyo. And in the village, the athletes will stay in the village, they will go to the training venues, they will go to the competition venues, and they'll come back to the village. So it's a very, very different Games. We'll support them in their competitions, and most importantly, we will bring them home safely and manage all of that within whatever government regulations here in Australia are in place at the time. This, as I said, will be very much an athlete and competition-centred Games. A perfect example is this afternoon, our chef de mission, Ian Chesterman, has already written to all the athletes to ease their anxiety about what they've read in the media. And we've gone out to all our member sports to ensure they also understand that, as I said, it was an unfounded rumour. So we're all working hard here at the AOC and with our member sports to take the Australian team to Tokyo, our largest since 2000. So with the athletes and the support staff, their coaches and medical, about 1,000 Australians to Tokyo, take them there safely, give them the best opportunities for success, and then bring them safely home to Australia where we can celebrate the Games. Any questions?
Matt, how do we get here? You know, is this a case legitimately of, you know, there is smoke without fire?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you would have seen the International Olympic Committee President last night has made the statement. But I think the most important for people to understand, it is not going to be the Games like it was in Rio or in London. It's going to be very simpler Games without a lot of the pomp and ceremony. It's very much about the athletes and the competition. No real difference to what's happened here in Australia with our competitions, what's happened with sporting events around the world. So if you could sort of put it in that context, yes, it is the world's biggest sporting event. So yes, it is challenging to plan for it, but that's what the job is about.
Is it alarming to you, though, that even perhaps, or at least there's reported, maybe even backroom discussions within the Japanese government to cancel the event?
Well, I wouldn't say there's backroom discussions in the Japanese government. There's certain backroom discussions in other places. But you know, the one thing I've found, I've worked in Japan for a couple of years, when the Japanese Prime Minister makes a statement, he makes a statement.
Yeah. This isn't a rumour, though, it's a report, and quite a member of the Japanese coalition that is leading that. Have you received any correspondence from them or from your colleagues in Japan?
Well, that only came out today, and as I said, the Prime Minister of Japan has just stood up in the Japanese Parliament in Tokyo and said the Games are on.
In terms of the preparation, we've seen the difficulties Melbourne's experiencing with hosting one sport and one event. Logistically, how tough will it be for Japan to get this right and not have cases of coronavirus, given there's athletes coming from all over the world at the time and there's more cases of coronavirus than before?
Well, if any country can handle a logistical challenge, it is Japan. They are very good at it, and I've no doubt, and the amount of effort going into the replanning of the Games. And the International Olympic Committee is working very closely with them as well. And they're drawing on World Health as well to manage that process through. Plus there was a responsibility on the National Olympic Committee. So ourselves, the US Olympic Committee, the Chinese Olympic Committee, all of us have a responsibility to ensure that we follow the protocols as well and we bring our athletes to the village COVID safe. So it's a joint effort. It's not all on the shoulders of the Japanese.
Have you had any feedback from athletes in Australia about concerns regarding coronavirus? I know there was some message of them getting vaccinated earlier. Is that still a plan that you'd like to see put in place before they go to Japan?
Look, there's a possibility there could be vaccinations before we go to Japan, but the most important thing is the vaccination program is for those Australians who need it first, and that is what I spoke to the Health Minister about last night, and we agree that it is for the Australians that need the vaccination first, and if we fall into line in the queue, the same as anyone else.
In terms of the timeline, what comes next for you as an organisation and for the athletes heading into this Olympics?
Well, as I said, this is a period of qualification, not only just qualification for athletes wishing to go overseas and compete, to get themselves ready and things of that nature. A lot of our sports are looking at having competitions here in Australia. So our focus there is working with our sports and our athletes and also with levels of government, both federal and state governments, to facilitate that to happen. And I must say the cooperation we're getting from the Commonwealth government agencies, whether it be Border Force or whether it be Department of Foreign Affairs or Health, and the same thing here in New South Wales and in other states, is fantastic. We're meeting all the quarantine requirements, we've got to meet all the restrictions, but they're cooperating and understanding about what we're trying to do.
I know it's early as well, but are there any concerns about the Winter Olympics and what the scheduling will be like for that, given the same circumstances will apply and it's only a calendar year away?
That project team, which is looking after the Summer Games, I didn't put it in today because we're talking about the Summer Games, is also there for the Winter Games. Because the Winter, it's only in February 2022, and our athletes are already in the qualification for that. There are Australian athletes overseas in Europe competing as we speak. And so, yes, we're very closely working with our winter team as well.
If hypothetically there were to be a cancellation of the Games, when would you expect that kind of decision to be made?
Well, that's a lovely hypothetical statement, but the Games are on, and they will start on the 23rd of July.
As far as you know, is there any threshold whatsoever which would prompt a cancellation?
No, and as I said, the IOC and the organising committee haven't just sort of thought, oh, we'll just go on as usual, because it's not as usual. Nothing is as usual with the COVID pandemic. So they've worked out a whole series of scenarios, and they will vary those scenarios as we head closer to the start of the Games, and to address all the issues that need to be done. As I said, it's already been simplified tremendously. The bonus there, of course, is saved a deal of money as well, which is important to the Games.
Is it possible that the regulations on athletes could be even stricter by the time the Olympics come around?
Well, we're working on the very strict regulations now, the 14-day quarantine and things of that nature. So the regulations around the world are fairly strict. If anything, if the vaccine rolls out across the world faster or better than it is today, that could actually improve things. But at the moment, we work to what it is today.
You were mentioned, 5 days before the Games, athletes will come in. Will that vary for different countries? Like, for example, you were saying that we've got a far worse COVID record than we have there.
Yeah, well, that's, again, it goes back to each of the National Olympic Committees to manage their athlete cohort. All athletes have to be tested in their own country before they leave, and then they'll all be tested at the airport before they go to the village. The rapid testing, of course, is improving, so that's one of the great benefits of the Games. The rapid testing will be closer. Athletes will be tested every day, going into each training venue and competition venues. There will be COVID protocol officers assigned to each of the National Olympic Committees to ensure that tracking and tracing is in place as well. And we're looking at some technology to work with our athletes as well. So yes, but if athletes have to travel further, there is obviously that requirement as well. From a point of view of the Australian team, we're in the same time zone. It's an 8-hour flight up the tram lines to Tokyo.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.